Down. I'm Chris Illy, your host today, and joining me now is Jerry Mintz. He's the Director for Alternative Education Resource Organization here in New York. Thank you so much for coming today.
Well, nice to be here.
Tell us, what's the current situation with education right now as you see it in like the New York metropolitan area?
Well, you know, they're trying to make change. And they've got some of the picture. With these new vision schools and so on, and trying to break the big schools into small schools, these are steps, I think, in the right direction. The problem is that the system still operates on a paradigm that is way out of date. And we're involved with alternative education, alternative schools. That includes homeschooling and Montessori schools, Waldorf schools, independent alternatives, democratic schools, and so on. And it's a different paradigm that these schools use. And we have over 13,000 of these alternatives in our database, so this is not a small thing, and it's happening all over the world. But the bulk of the traditional system operates on a different paradigm, and if you want, I'll explain what the two different paradigms are.
Yeah, explain the two, and I'm interested in hearing that since I was pretty bored as a student in, you know, in the mainstream type of teaching methods that they use today. I'm kind of wondering what is available as far as alternatives.
That's exactly, I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. Kids, we believe, are natural learners. And so that is a whole different approach from what happens with kids in the traditional system. Now, I guess here's the best way I could paint it in broad terms. The traditional system is based on a paradigm, on the idea that kids are naturally lazy and need to be forced to learn. And so if you extend that, then you need to have forced homework, you need to have competition, you need to have, you know, kids don't know what they should be learning and so on. And that seems to be the basis of the traditional public school system, which most, or maybe 90% of schools still operate on. It is totally out of date. It is at odds with brain research, which shows that kids are natural learners. And if you start with the other paradigm, which we do, that kids are natural learners, then you don't need forced homework. Your job is as a guide to help them find the resources that they need to learn. And this is probably why, for example, homeschoolers are in the 85th percentile, even with parents who have no experience in teaching. It's why kids who are involved with alternative schools do so well, and colleges are falling all over themselves to get them into their schools. Because it is natural for kids to be curious. They should not be bored in school. And the most important thing, and this is something that I point out in my 10 signs that you need a different type of education for your child, if your child says they hate school, then something's wrong with their school, because kids are natural learners.
Mm-hmm. Well, you brought up some good points, because I really feel that there's so much potential in children, not only to learn, but to be happy in life, because they are little like sponges, and you know, I think they do enjoy that to a degree too. So having other options for education today is just really a wonderful thing. What do you have to say somebody's watching today and they feel really trapped in the education that their child's getting? How can they step out into some sort of alternate plan for their child?
Well, for example, we had a conference. We have an annual conference every year, but we hosted the International Democratic Education Conference in 2003. And people at that conference said, how come we don't have any democratic schools in New York City? And what I mean by a democratic school is a school in which the child actually has some power to make decisions about their school and their own life and their education. And so out of that came a group, and we actually tried to start a public alternative and an independent alternative. And we really tried to get the public funds to, and one of the new small public schools, and it just sat on a bureaucrat's desk. But the private school, the independent school, got started, and it's called Brooklyn Free School. And it is in Brooklyn on 4th Avenue and 16th Street. And at that school, the decisions are made democratically. The kids can choose anything they want to learn or not. And the kids love the school. And that is a choice. Unfortunately, it's full and it has a waiting list, but it's still, you know, people can still try to contact the Brooklyn Free School. There are other sort of progressive schools, there are democratic schools, there are some pretty good new schools that they've established, but that's the only real democratic school in the New York City area. Otherwise, there's homeschooling. And anybody in this country can homeschool their child. They do not need to be a teacher or anything like that. And it's not a matter of asking permission. If you fill out the forms properly and so on and just indicate what you're going to do, you can homeschool.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, one thing, I mean, I think it's important to get maybe some very basic, you know, English and history skills and geography, but with you mentioning the choice for all these other types of learning experiences and courses, that's one thing that kind of attracts me to, you know, the homeschooling style, or where you get to select more choices, because it is amazing how much is available to learn. And sometimes I feel that, having seen my own child go through the school system, that she was limited in some ways to learn more practical things that she could really use in her future in her life.
That's right. I mean, do you know that the subjects the kids learn in the traditional system was established by a group in 1896? You know, that you must learn algebra. Why? You know, I mean, when's the last time you used algebra? Did you use it? Have you used it since you graduated?
I have never used algebra.
Well, I mean, I'm saying if you want to learn it, that's great. You'll learn it really fast, you know.
Exactly.
But I think there are certain things that they just say you must learn this, and there's no. It's become almost like a dogma, you see. And on the other hand, if you let kids really pursue seriously the things they're interested in and build on their learning, on what they're interested in learning, then they go like skyrockets. And because all knowledge is ultimately connected anyway, one thing leads to another and another and so on. And the interesting thing is that you can ask any kid today, if they really want to know something, do they wait in their class till the teacher teaches it? No, they go to the internet and they know it in 10 minutes.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is such an amazing tool that we have today, that it far outweighs anything you're going to learn in school. And I think that's where sometimes it gets frustrating for people. It's just more of a discipline for them to go through the process of school when they don't have real interest.
To tell you the truth,
you know, some of the things you have to learn anyway. You know, we all need to learn to read and write to survive in our society.
Sure.
And you may not like learning to read or write.
Well, but the thing is, kids do like learning to read, especially when they can do it at their own pace. You know, and I think they like learning everything that they find they need to learn in their lives, that you know, they become aware of it. But I think that the way school is set up now, it's almost like they talk about seat time. It's almost like serving your time. I could read you a poem that I wrote when I was 15 that tells you what want me to read this poem? It's this is from a book that I wrote called No Homework and Recess All Day.
I wish I went to that school.
How to have freedom and democracy in education. Well, it's not just one school. I mean, I did run a school like this for a long time, but on our website, which is educationrevolution.org, we have a list of hundreds of these democratic schools, and as I said, there's really only one in New York City.
So when you're using the term democratic, you're not meaning like Republicans can go to the
No. We're talking about democracy, in which there's a meeting in which you can make proposals, and if it passes, that's what the school does. The students and teachers have an equal vote.
We're just about out of time. Once again, how can
Where did the time go?
How can people get in touch with you if they want to find out more information on alternative education?
Well, they can go to our website, which is educationrevolution.org, and they can also call our 800 number, which is 800-769-4171, 800-769-4171. You can see I used to have my own show. And you know, contact us or go to educationrevolution.org. You can write to me from that site, and I'd be glad to help you. We do it every day.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for